All right, Mr. Phil. Tell me how I say your last name.
Haralam.
Is it Haralam?
Haralam, yeah.
Okay, very
But
cool.
we kind of like slur it like you'd say like the neighborhood in New York. You can just say like Harlem, think of it like
Okay. Yep. All
yeah.
right. Because I know there's the A in there. What?
Yeah.
That's a cool name. What nationality is that? Is that Greek?
Greek.
It's Greek.
So yeah, so what would have been Haralambopoulos.
Yeah.
When my great grandfather came from Greece, they chopped the Bopoulos off at Ellis Island.
So I
And
should say Opa.
yeah, Opa.
That's how you know a guy who doesn't drink anymore. I know how to say cheers in like
Right,
languages.
right, exactly. Prost,
Yeah.
Skol, Chin
Never,
Chin.
yeah, chin chin. Yeah.
Right.
See? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I've been in a pub or two in my life.
Yeah, it's a pub or two. Yeah, yeah. Speaking of which, I got one of Phil's mugs. I love this mug, dude.
Cheers. Here.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, cheers. I was gonna do that at the end. We should do like a virtual handshake.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I love your forms, man. Your forms are so good. Like
Thank you.
those handles are just perfect. They look fake. How'd you do that?
I've probably like spent as much time sculpting the handle and like refining it as sort of any other part.
Absolutely.
I feel like especially like functional pots are like shoes. They have to like even if it's within your line of work, each one can kind of fit slightly different. And
I'm writing that down. Functional pots are like shoes. That's great.
I think because you always like see when you're like looking at somebody's work or somebody's like maybe looking to collect one of your pieces, they tend if there's like multiple mugs or hand cups or whatever, you find them like picking them up and
Yeah.
feeling and so it might have that aesthetic or that sort of visual quality, but everyone's like slightly different, and I think that's the great thing about
Yeah,
handmade work.
absolutely. I tell people like, if they want me to make them a set, I say I don't really do sets. I'll glaze them kind of the same,
Right.
color them the same, but none of them are going to be the same.
Yeah.
I got to do all these handles today. I got to kind of shave these. And
Oh yeah.
Man, it's like stuff drying when it's this cold. Just takes forever. But
I know. Well, that's what I'd left some was throwing some teapot bodies last night, and I left them uncovered by accident, and they're still too wet.
totally
You know.
fine. Yeah.
You know.
Well,
So it's all
speaking of
good.
handles, I went to Pentaculum.
Oh yeah,
You were you were an artisan resident at Haralam
yeah, at Aramont. Yeah.
for
So
like
two.
the whole year, or how long?
Yep. Yeah. So it's about the residency is 11 months. So I guess they have a bit of like a changeover period, and so you get there right at the beginning of the summer session,
Yep.
um, and then you stay through the winter into the next spring, and so that was the first year after graduate school. So
Wow, I think I want to do that. I love that place.
yeah, it was fantastic, and
Yeah.
it's interesting. I had never been to Gatlinburg before I
That's
arrived as
weird.
a
Yep.
artist in residence. Yeah,
Yep.
and but they at least when I was there, they make you visit before you accept the residency, which
Okay.
is smart because it's like, do you really know what this place is like, and do you
Yeah.
feel like you can live here for a year?
Yeah, you think you know.
Right,
I went down for Pentaculum in 2023, and I expected it to be kind of like a Penland, like in the middle
right,
of
yeah,
nowhere, like a
exactly,
little southern town. And
right,
I was on the phone with my wife in a rental car, and you can't, if you don't know where the entrance is, you're
yes,
not going to find it.
right,
And the sign is this big.
yep,
So I'm on the phone with my wife, and it was like, I don't know, it was like a holiday weekend. There was lights and a million people, and I said, I must have made a wrong turn. Like, I'm in the wrong, and I'm calling Sam Chumley. There's no gate. He's like, just make a left.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
learned quickly to not go that way when I left. I always went that way.
right,
So
yeah.
I found a
Well, and
star.
that entrance, like that back entrance, was that there when you were there? Like the up
Yeah, up
past
that little
the
hill.
yeah, that didn't they didn't build that till after I left. So the
Oh,
only way onto campus was right there on the strip,
yeah, by
and
the
well, that wasn't there then either. That ski
really.
lift thing that wasn't there, and so it was a little bit more like once you turned on to campus, it was like you were in this complete bubble. That
Yeah, I call it the eye of the storm.
yes,
You know,
that
it's
is
really
good.
quiet peaceful little place, and just don't stick your head out too far.
But it is magical. It is like those kinds of experience really can be formative. And as an artist in residence, being there for a year,
Yeah.
just having that dedicated time and space to work, especially coming out of graduate school. I went to Indiana University in Bloomington,
Oh yeah.
um, and which was intense and fantastic.
Did
But
you study ceramics in college?
yeah, so initially I was actually a management major, so I went to school for business, and then I was an art minor, and that lasted about halfway through the first year. And then yeah, then I was an art major and business minor, and then by the end of that first year, I was a BFA track, and so the only elective class I took in undergrad was accounting 201. So
Oh, the best class.
yeah, right, yeah. So I can read a Fortune 500 spreadsheet, and that's
And
about the
pay.
extent. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
funny. I think you're like the seventh episode today, I think. And like,
Okay.
I think the majority all went to school for something else and then switched.
Yeah.
I'm going to have Justin Pock Reese on. You know Justin, big tall Justin?
No. Mm-mm.
He
I
makes
mean, I know work, but
yeah,
not. I don't.
giant porcelain pots that he carves.
Yeah, yeah.
I met him at Pentaculum actually, and I'm pretty sure he was a painter. Like he went to school, and they were like, you need to take an art elective to graduate.
Right.
And he's like, I just take ceramics, I guess, and there you go. It's pretty addictive.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. I mean, my first experience with clay probably was like elementary school,
Oh
and
wow.
then but then I've been working clay not with nonstop since eighth grade, ninth grade.
Oh wow. Okay.
So my high school had a ceramics studio and a ceramics class as a standalone art program, and so even like lunchtime, I'd be eating my lunch in the ceramics room and study halls, or anytime I could get out of class, I'd be in the clay studio, and then I even rented studio space from a local potter's studio, like my junior and senior year of high school. But it was just a thing that I wanted to do. It was
Yeah.
just fun, and um,
Yeah, that's very cool. I wish I had been a
yeah,
little bit more pushed into it as a kid.
yeah.
Um, yeah, most
Well,
people. I'm always asking. One of my questions is, where did you find clay? So high school and elementaries, that's early. Wow.
yeah, well, I think a lot of schools, primary schools, they have like you have a little like clay project. It wasn't like any kind of serious
Yeah.
entree into the medium, but probably it really was high school, and we had a ceramics instructor, and yeah, I love the fact that clay to me like offer the ability to you can draw, you can paint, you can sculpt. There's
Sure.
like all of these creative outlets kind of
In one medium.
one medium, right?
Yeah.
The flexibility. And I think now, the contemporary education, we don't sort of track via medium. Um, it's less about like studying necessarily clay or
Yeah.
sculpture, right?
Yeah. I had that conversation with Mark Errol the other day. You know Mark?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Awesome
saw
dude.
that. I saw that clip. Yeah, you all were talking about that on your.
Yeah. Mark is awesome, and he said about they're doing non-specific BFAs
Yeah,
now, and he said to his students, it's weird to his students that he has a BFA in ceramics.
right.
And I wonder why they would do that.
I mean, part
Like,
of it, I think the philosophy is it's that your medium should be like a vehicle for expression, and I think that it doesn't mean that you can't dive into a singular idea or medium or process, but as far as like the program kind of forcing you or creating this path, so like day one you sign up for this thing, and then now that's like all that you're doing. So I think it allows for a more open expression of ideas. But I think honestly, it's also money. I think there
yeah,
is a
yeah.
bit, I think there's a bit about like our education system, and it's cheaper to run more condensed programs.
Well, sure. Yeah.
Right? You can have less faculty and less like studio equipment and less space. Like we all know what happened to West Virginia, and they
Yeah.
like
Gone. Uh,
right.
he's
Well,
at where is he? He's at RISD now.
yeah. So
Shoji.
Soji, yeah.
Yep. Yep. And
So
Jen Allen, isn't that Jen
right.
Allen? Yep.
Yep.
She's amazing. Oh my
Yeah,
god,
I know.
dude! I took a workshop with her last year on Zoom, which is really where kind of got the idea to do, online workshops. Really, I did 3 of them. But I was doing one with her. It was like $70. It was 2 hours, and it was November. I had just finished the golf season at work. So I sat down with a cup of coffee and some paper and got ready to take notes. And I was watching, and I noticed in the upper right hand corner, there was 186 people signed up.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
wild. That is wild. That's like a amphitheater style demo experience.
Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, I want to do that. That, and I was talking to Chumley about that the other day. I don't know if you saw him at Ensika that time. I met you at Ensika. He did the screen printing on the stage there.
Right.
And he was like, dude, that was wild. I expected maybe 50 people. He said there must have been 800 people in that room. Yeah.
It's like thank you, Richmond.
Yeah, that's too funny. So yeah, I want to do one of those, but I don't know if you've ever seen the paperwork to get
No.
like, oh my god, it's like, sheesh.
Yeah, you were talking about finding a table in Sika. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, so I know it is, and it's like everything is like a year out or 2 years out, and there is a lot of
yeah.
energy. I had was supposed to have a show with, I don't know, do you know Charlie Teft, his pots?
Yeah.
Um,
Very
and-
cool. Draws on
Yeah,
beautiful
yeah,
drawings. Of course.
animals. It's like a white stoneware. Yeah, so he blends like P10 and I can't remember. Like there's like two. He like hand mixes all of his. Yeah. So he was actually my undergrad professor at Guilford College. So where I went, and then we still are friends. And actually, I know Ron Philbeck, and
He's tomorrow.
he's tomorrow. Okay, awesome. So he and like there's a group of us down here in North Carolina that are we have a group called Thrown Together Potters.
Yes, I
So-
have that written down.
Yeah.
Tell me about Thrown Together Potters. Yep.
Yeah, so that's I think there's that group of us that but Charlie and we were supposed to have a show together at Nsika that first Richmond like 2020 COVID. And so all of that like the work and energy to like put one of those shows together and organize the space and all of that. It's like I don't know. It was exciting. It was excited to do it, and then didn't end up happening. We ended up having to hanging the show at the Green Hill Gallery, part of another exhibition in North Carolina. But it was about collaboration and collaborative work. But yeah, it's like once you go through that, it's a lot of work and thinking about like putting one of those together and
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I just got invited. I got an email the other day. It's super exciting to be part of the Flower City Pottery Invitational up here in Rochester.
Oh, great.
It's a huge show, and I'm really excited because there's only like 7 or 8 artists, so that's really cool. But it's next October. So for me, as soon as April 15th comes along, I work 7 days a week.
Right.
And I'm just I can't make pots. I really wish I could. Actually last year on my calendar I blocked off Tuesdays. I was like, I am not doing
Right.
no lessons on Tuesday.
Right.
I didn't make one pot.
Yeah.
So for me, they want you to have like 50 to 70 pieces,
Right.
and I gotta have them all done by April.
Right. You can make them now. Yeah.
You know how I feel. Yeah.
Yes.
And they gotta be good.
Right.
And as a potter and an artist, you're like, that's terrible. Everything you make, it's just terrible.
Yeah. So if you need 70, it means you have to make like 150.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Of course, now I'm going down this freaking rabbit hole thanks to I was geeking out on Matt Scheinman the other day.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god! Now I can't stop.
Well, now you got to make them guitar shaped.
Yeah, great. Yeah. That's a cool idea. I did this one the other day while I was
Oh, that's cool.
somebody. Yeah, so now it's just like I can't not see them now.
Yeah. So do you find yourself, because like of uh, your kind of split life and career in both golf and pottery, and like do you kind of find yourself being like pulled in different directions, especially since you have these sort of natural start stop periods of your studio practice? Like you kind of come back to it, and do you find yourself like wanting to explore different avenues and things in a way that maybe if you didn't have that inertia, that wouldn't happen as much?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. It's really weird. I'm booking people for this show, and it's booking a couple of weeks or maybe a month in advance, and I'm thinking, wow, this winter's going by quick.
Right.
Because April 1st, I start work really. So who knows? It's is what it is. I'd love to be a full-time potter, but that ain't easy.
Yeah.
Do you teach high school or you teach college?
I teach college, so I'm the program AFA Associated Fine Arts Program Coordinator at Rockingham Community College. So it's a rural community college, but in the North Carolina State University system.
Beautiful.
And so we actually have like a really like phenomenal studio, like a huge throwing and hand building room. We have 6 electric kilns, raku kiln, large downdraft car kiln,
Very
big
cool.
glaze lab. It's a
Wow.
huge space, and so yeah, we have continuing education classes and curriculum program. So
That sounds fantastic.
yeah, and it's great because I have a fantastic studio tech. So I've got actually a couple, and then a couple part-time techs. So I've got people who are helping like run the program and mixing glazes and running tests, and
Yeah,
so there's a
so
lot.
cool.
It's a lot happening.
Most of the successful potters I've known over my years of being around ceramics. I mean, it's funny. People ask me, how long have you been doing ceramics? I said, well, kind of since about 2008, but I can only do it half a year.
Right.
So 6 years.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Yes. Yeah. For me, it's probably what 95.
Yeah, so 30
You know.
years.
Yeah. Which is crazy. Does that mean I'm old?
I was telling someone that the other day, I said, don't you hate when you tell a story and you go,
Yeah.
that was 30 years ago?
Right.
And
Yeah.
you remember it.
It is insane.
But most of the successful potters I've known have been professors
Right.
because I think that they have, well, it depends on the program they're in and the school they're at, but, people I knew from Alfred that were pretty successful, kind of famous potters were professors because they had unlimited resources and time and studios and clay and.
Yeah, I think there's having that support. I mean, my gig is a little bit different than like a lot of other like university faculty where I have a lot of other responsibilities just beyond like the classroom teaching, and I have
Yeah, you got like budgetary things and all that.
yeah, administrative things and annual assessment and yeah, all that kind of
Yeah,
jazz. So
I hate
so
writing budgets. What's your budget? I don't know. I'll tell you at the end of the year.
right, how much do I need? And yeah, but I don't know. For me though, I think I really am like there is something about being in the classroom and even designing curriculum and thinking through projects and that is fulfilling and interesting. And I find it's like every semester, every week, there is a certain amount of play that happens even in that capacity.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great because to me, I have to have that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it helps me. Like if you have to help kind of rethinking like what you're doing and why you're doing it, then you can't not but apply that and look to your own work and your own studio practice. And
Yeah,
I think that I don't know. I find that really fulfilling. And
yeah. Well, shit. Fulfilling is great. I need change.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think that's why my work is constantly moving in
Right.
all sorts of different directions because I just get bored making the same thing. I just can't do it.
Right.
Do you want to make what sells? Yeah. I'm very lucky to have another job that I don't really need to make what sells.
Right.
I want to make what sells. I want to be that guy that puts up 20 mugs and hey, I sold out in 3 minutes.
Right.
And put that picture up with all the boxes
Yeah.
packed. Everybody, like, I told my wife, I said, you know what I should do? I should post like 40 mugs,
Right.
take them down after 4 minutes, and put up just stack a bunch of boxes and go, oh look, they sold.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Those are funny pictures. It's like this like humble brag. Like
Yeah.
the I don't know. I've thought about taking those pictures,
Yeah, I'm gonna put one box, Phil.
Right. Thank you for all your support, Jim. That's funny.
Oh goodness me.
Yeah, but I don't know. It is. I find. I was just talking to. So it's the I guess second week of classes, and I've got teaching a 3D design class, and talking to. Basically, we're having the conversation about critique and
Yep.
like feedback, and trying to. I kind of really teach a whole process about critique and how to for students to run and drive their own critique and what's the point and why do we do it and all this kind of stuff, and how
Cool.
usually it doesn't feel very good, especially for introverts or people who aren't
I'd love to see this on that.
the most confident. And I was like, I don't know that I think I still feel uncomfortable with feedback, even positive feedback, or it's still putting myself out there. Part of maybe why a lot of artists are drawn to be working in the studio and interacting with their material, and some people really love shows and workshops and that kind of thing, and I do, but it's still sometimes surprising, if I'm in a show or an exhibition or workshop or whatever, and people are sort of giving praise and I love your work or whatever, and I'm like, really? Really? I don't know.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I don't know why that sense of. I mean, I like what I do, and I wouldn't do it if but I really ultimately do it for myself, and I find it rewarding in the process, but it's still, I don't know why it's still sometimes surprising that
Yeah.
it also connects to other people,
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of I'm kind of torn. I love the praise and I hate the praise at the same time.
Yeah.
It's let's talk about something else. Hey, you make really nice pots. Thanks.
Yeah. But and I don't know. I feel like maybe that mentality is universal to an extent to all artists, because if you don't that feeling of, well, but I could do something different, or I could do it better, or I could reapproach this.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that makes you want to go back into the studio. I think that's the thing that kind of makes you want to make more work and keep going. And so if you're nailed it, I'm done, I'm out. Then what's the point? Why? Yeah,
I did it. Yeah.
it's then you're
shit, I need another hobby now.
right. What's Marcel Duchamp just quitting sculpture and painting and just playing chess the rest of his life?
Yeah, it's kind of rude.
Art is done and dead, and I'm moving on. So.
It's funny. My first wife was an artist and an art teacher. Actually, she teaches down about an hour away. She's actually my daughter's art teacher as well.
Okay.
I remember when we were dating, she painted a watercolor. Just sat there and doodled it real quick, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's amazing!" And she's like, "That's terrible." You know what I mean? And I never understood that until I started making stuff.
Yeah.
And then people go, "Oh my god, I love your mug." I'm like, "Yeah, that's a shitty one."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well, I love it."
And that's right. That's the thing. It's how your work, and I think part of it is when it leaves your hand, your studio, when you've finished touching it, it really belongs to you. It's because if it engages and it resonates with somebody, then I feel that it sort of lives this life beyond kind of where you are, and I think you just kind of have to be okay with that, and you have to be okay if you don't like it and it doesn't do anything for you, engage you, but it does for somebody else, you have to be. I mean, I think there are standards, right? If it really is like trash, or it's a second, or there's like things that really don't,
Yeah.
like, yeah, then you don't let anybody see it to even have those sort of interactions and moments. But I don't know. Sometimes you just have to be okay with it going out into the world and living its own life. And
Did you see the F this mugs I just made?
yes, yeah.
Aren't those
Yeah.
fun? I love them. And they sell them like crazy. I sold like 6 of them last week, and I got one that says "piss off" that I'm kind of saving for my buddy.
Yeah, like that made this for you.
Yeah. Literally, dude. Do you have some of those friends? I have a friend that just texts me 6 a.m. He'll just text me the nastiest stuff in the world.
Yeah, there's actually some of that like, group chat with Minnie is
Yeah.
there's some of that crew of guys. Yeah, I don't.
And my wife is like, "What is wrong with you?" I'm
Yeah.
like, just the way we communicate. I'm sorry. It's bad.
Yeah, some of those group chats I've had to like leave because it's like I don't. It's just even like the volume of I don't know group chats I think can be one of the worst. Just,
As soon as somebody tags me in one, I'm like, "Who did this?"
Yeah. But
All right. So you live in what part of North Carolina now?
I'm in Greensboro.
Greensboro. Oh, very cool.
So it's the triad like central part of the state.
And you're married, right?
Yeah.
What's your wife do?
She's a nurse, so she does surgery, so vascular surgery.
So you married a saint.
Well, she probably wouldn't say that. I think, but yeah, I would say that. But yeah, she
People blow my mind.
I think there's something about like the technical process of surgery that fits her like mentality and fits her personality. That and she always says, well, she's glad that her patients are asleep. Yeah. They're basically under anesthesia, and so it's mostly her like making jokes and cracking up like the surgeons and the techs and the other people, and they're like rocking hip hop or whatever music and like hanging out, and I mean they're locked in and they're doing their work.
Sure.
And there are times it is crazy because there are times that people code or go to cardiac arrest like on the operating table. And we were in during COVID, that was like one of the hardest times where they were having to wear like basically a moon suit in surgery, like she was like an astronaut, with pressurized. And our friend Maggie was wearing. She worked with me at school and was wearing a mascot, like an eagle mascot. And so she posted a picture of her like in this full mascot outfit, and then my wife like sent to our like group chat like a picture of her in a pressurized like moon suit because to not die at work. And she's like, our jobs are so different. It's like like.
There's a kid in town that I know plays golf at the golf course. He's a EMT. He does 3 days on, 3 days off, and he works at night and responding to car accidents where people have like severed body parts, and I'm like, oh my god, dude, how do you do? I would run in the other direction. It's like firemen. You're going into that house, it's on fire.
Well, we're sure glad people do it though, right?
God, yeah. I mean, well, especially now. Oh my gosh, out west there.
It's pretty wild.
Somebody had a video out there from the other day that had a camera like looking up at a house on the hill in Malibu that's just engulfed in flames, and they're like, "This house is on Zillow for $35 million right now." Not anymore.
Yeah.
Oh man. Gosh, it's so sad. What a mess. And now there's another fire. Right?
I didn't see that. Yeah.
There's another one north of LA right now. Yeesh.
Man, that's wild. Yeah.
So your wife's a nurse, and you said this morning you just came back from walking the dog. You got one dog, 2 dogs?
Yeah, one dog. So Dexter is a chocolate lab. So he's
I love chocolate.
He's a good boy. Yeah,
I have 2 dogs. 2 dogs and 2 cats.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think cats are really interesting creatures. I always say I love other people's cats, but I've lived with a couple cats for different points in my life, and but you sort of live in their house, You know, like
Oh
they're
yeah. Yep.
they kind of run the roost, and
I saw like a T-shirt or something, and it was like, if cats knew how to use a can opener, they wouldn't need us at all.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I got one cat. I got one cat that's like 18 pounds. Like when he walks, belly sways underneath him, and
That's a
he's a
turkey.
yeah, it's a turkey. Uh, but the other one, his name is Naldo, Ronaldo, and like, he's just like the most handsome cat, but you can't hold him.
He doesn't. He's not
Nope.
interested.
I'll sit on the
Yeah.
couch in the morning with my coffee, and he'll sit like on the arm, like right next to my face, but he won't sit on my lap. Freaks me out. I'm like, come on, dude. Yeah. Like I feed you.
Yeah.
So, how long you been at the school teaching there?
I'm coming about 10 years actually.
Okay.
So, um, yeah, I started there. So I was teaching at Purdue University
Oh, okay.
and
Where is that? Is that in Indiana? Also.
Indiana. Yeah. So after graduate school, I spent a year at Airmont School of Art and Crafts, and then was teaching a sabbatical replacement at Guilford College, my alma mater, here in Greensboro, and that's where I met my now wife. But we met, and our first date was after I'd accepted, like the week, like 4 days after I accepted position at Purdue. And I was there. Yeah. And so I was like, yeah, I was out of town. She's like, oh, what were you doing out of town? I was like, well, I just took a position at Purdue in Indiana. She's like, well, why the hell are we even like on this date? Like we're in North. Yeah. So, but I didn't, what didn't start to I was actually St. Patrick's Day was when we met. So that's now kind of
Oh, nice.
our kind of, yeah, our unofficial anniversary, right? And, but so we, dated through that summer, and then I still dated through that following year, and I moved back. Just decided that, we weren't done dating.
Yep.
So moved back here and started working at RCC, and yeah, that's kind of where we've been. So yeah, North Carolina's great. It's
Yeah.
we're about 2.5 hours from the mountains, about 3 hours from the beach, and there's an airport 15 minutes away from my house, and Charlotte and Raleigh are bigger international airports, like an hour away. So I don't know, you're kind of situated in like a really great space, and other than this week, the weather is normally pretty lovely year round.
Did you guys get snow?
We haven't. So we just got last week about an inch, but it's been about 6 years really since we've gotten any kind of substantial snow.
Did you see Pensacola, Florida? Got
Yeah,
snow?
it's crazy.
Yeah, nothing to see here, folks. Like,
Yeah, my buddy's from Pensacola actually, and he was down there and sent me some videos, and his family are still down there. And I was like, well, how can you tell if it's snowing or just sand? Because the sand down there is like white.
like, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's pretty beautiful.
So let's talk a little bit of process. Have you always been a porcelain guy?
In undergrad, I was playing around stoneware and mostly like a really groggy red, like dark clay, actually kind of looking like that. Yeah, and high water clays is like down here. Rest in peace. Like they,
Was, yep.
but they are basically out of commission after that hurricane hit. Actually, both Florida and Western North Carolina. They had two
They were
factories.
Underwater, high water.
Yeah, I know. They should have been a little bit higher above the water, but
Yes.
and then I think when I graduated and started sort of my career, just sometimes when you're young and starting out, you're so naive and don't really know anything, and so I thought, well, I'm gonna play with porcelain because it seemed like the most challenging and difficult medium. So I'm gonna kind of try to perfect this or really master this, and then once I do that, then I feel like I can do anything. And so it's been, you know, 25 years, and I'm still trying to, I'm still trying to figure it out, you know.
I was gonna
So,
say, have you always been porcelain, or have you always been a sadist? Like,
yeah, I mean, that's why I'm like, why do I do this to myself? And I keep thinking, like, well, how, you know, it's like, why can I, you know, can I do what I do with other materials? And I think as like making sculpture, so I have you know, always had a body of sculpture and pottery, and so the sculpture is always like a mix of materials and even non-ceramic materials. And so, but there's just something that feels at home at this point with
yeah,
porcelain, you know, like I've gone away and kind of come back, and I
seems like
tried.
you got it figured out.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, it does what I want it to do for the most part at this point, you know.
That's kind of all you can ask for from clay. You know?
I mean, it fights back and it kicks me in the teeth sometimes. You know,
Yeah, I was kind of scrolling through all your videos and Instagram last night, trying to think of things to chat about, and I saw you throwing that big 17-pound piece, because I was going to ask you, those big jars, do you make them in one piece? And then I found the video of you doing such that. So
yeah, no, they,
those are beautiful. I love that yellow.
yeah, I think I actually have a piece.
Yeah, big piece. You threw that in one piece? Yeah.
So no, this is two pieces.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then this is slab built,
Okay. Yep. Yeah, that's beautiful.
and
Oh, I love the dents on the side. Is that like
yeah,
dented handles, or did you put a handle, or just dented as a handle?
just
Just
on
kind of.
the, yeah, just like, so that's kind of, I've been doing that for kind of manipulating the
Yeah.
surface,
Yep. Yep.
and I feel like to me there's something about the maintaining the feel of the plastic clay all the way through the process. I think most of us who play with clay are initially attracted to like the malleability, like that feeling of like manipulating, bending, and what I call it the plastic potential of ceramics.
Uh huh.
And so I think there's something about trying to keep that feeling, that essence of the malleability and that plastic nature all the way through the fired finished state. And so kind of like stretching and pushing, that kind of does that for me. It's also, especially if I've like started like been like decorating and putting images on pottery. It's like it's not a blank slate. Like I have to navigate those spaces.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's
Yeah.
kind of starting with that, and then especially with like the hand objects, it is like a tactile
Yeah. Oh, I
component,
love that
right?
size of that. That's a beauty.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah, that's a beauty. So you pencil that on, then do you use mostly underglazes?
yeah, so I use all kinds of underglaze. Like I'm using like, you know, the Amico and the Speedball, but
Oh.
then yeah,
Yeah. Right.
then I keep my reclaim. So I have a you know, I'll keep a cup. Actually, this is a Tom Coleman piece,
Ooh, lovely.
uh, but so this is actually my brush, one of my brush washout.
Iconic.
but, which, you know, it's like it's with me on next to my table, like you know, every day. So
Part
I
of your
know.
practice. You know, I
Yeah,
actually surround myself with pieces of art in my studio that are just, to me, I'm like, I got Sam Chumley back there, and I got a Lindsay Rogers
right.
painting, you know, and
Yeah,
I got tiles from Austin Kudre above my wheel. So it's just all, to me, it's all inspirational.
yeah, and I think, you know, it's like what people like, you have collects, and I've got artwork, you know, all over the house, right? My walls are like completely,
Yeah. They
and
should be.
I've got like work from friends that are like in the bathroom, and it's like you think like, was that like, is that disrespectful, or is it like, man, I'm in there all the like everyone's in there every day all the time, right? And so
More than anybody.
right, and so it's like I think any objects around you and art and like I think it all matters, and every space like can be enriched, and
Yeah.
so yeah. So
So
having
you keep your brush reclaim. Sorry, I cut you off.
yeah, so I keep the brush reclaim, and I kind of keep a cool and a warm reclaim. So like I'll even sometimes I'll tint it with a little bit of red, and I'll tint this with a little bit of blue. But as I'm decorating and washing out, so then even like some of these lines are actually it's reclaim. So like the line, it recondense, all of like the solids in the bottom of my washout, and I just find it's not as like flat and consistent of like a color or a line.
Yep.
So even as I'm brushing through, there's just like other like subtle modulation in the. So that one, I'm not sure if that one is maybe just all black. Um, so I think that is maybe just pure black, and then the glaze is pulling some of that blue out of it.
Do you use a clear?
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. So then, like the thicker I apply the glaze, the more
Where you get the run?
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
see, I love the run.
yeah, me too. It's
Yeah. I got to find a clear that works. One of the reasons I use terrace sidge is because I like to have the exterior of the pots covered with stuff and decorated.
right.
And then with terrace sidge, I control that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then with if you put a clear over it, it just burns everything off.
Right.
So I just kind of stuck with just terrace sidge for a while, but now I got this great white that I can make my colors come through.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm kind of going down this hole too. So, which, as we were talking about earlier, for me it has to be ever fluctuating. I'll get bored.
Yeah. Right. I think that's. I don't know, and I find for me the most recent thing is color that I've been like expanding my color palette.
Yeah, love that orange. That's great. And that's
you
just
know.
underglaze.
So this is glaze. So the orange is glaze,
Oh yeah, cool.
and then but I'm like sort of adding those lines around there, and then I'm adding sort of accents of like punches. I think it's maybe hard to see. Maybe there's.
I have a whole bucket full of orange glaze that I got from a kid out in Utah. His name's Ridge Merrill. And you know how that works. Like you're like, oh, I love that little.
So there's like that little punch of like yellow there.
Yeah.
So that's underglaze. So I'll glaze this area, and then, but you can kind of see even here that is the reclaim, and so there's a little bit of like warm kind of red tones. I don't know if it's coming
Yeah.
across.
It's peachy. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and but here is like applying the clear, and then this is the Celadon glaze.
Oh,
That's like
okay.
on the inside,
Yep.
and then I like putting some like solid like kind of dried chunks of that yellow underglaze on top, and so it's almost like an iceberg, and it kind of floats
Oh yeah.
as it sort of moves through.
Yeah, I'm digging that. That's a great pot. I love that little lip that holds the lid.
Yeah.
That little on the handle. That's kind of smart.
Yeah,
It's about how it pours, isn't it?
yeah.
Stupid spouts.
And then I've got the strainer on the inside.
Oh yeah. See? Yep. You just push it in.
Yeah, so I'll like when it's at this stage, I'll kind of press it in, and then I use a drill bit
Yep.
to make those holes. So if you're steeping tea, actually last winter break, my wife and I went to London for a week before
cool.
Christmas, and spent a lot of time drinking tea and really kind of studying some like the teapots and kind of I got back into making teapots, which I hadn't done for a while.
A lot of work.
Yeah, but they are fun and
Yeah.
and challenging and
Definitely challenging. As a hand builder, I hand build spouts, and they're just, I don't know, they're just tough.
yeah,
No matter how you do it. Sometimes I'll throw the spout, but then I gotta alter it to make it look more hand built to match the rest of the form. Yeah, you know what I found actually that works for me in ceramics. I don't know if it works for everybody else, I'm sure it does, is I have to, well, first of all, as a guy who is like, just got crazy ADHD, I have to do 4 things at a time, right? So I make 3 or 4 pieces at a time because I have to walk away from them. Like I gotta let them
Right.
dry,
Yeah. Right.
or I'll keep screwing with it. Like I went
Right.
upstairs the other day, took a shower, ate some lunch. My wife's like, "Why are you taking a shower in the middle of the day?" I said, "Because there's a piece drying down there, and if I go down there, I'm gonna flip it over, and I'm gonna ruin it."
Yeah, it's always like one of the best things you can do in the studio is nothing. Sometimes like that
Yeah.
is the most important thing, and I think especially people who are new to ceramics, they want to keep working and keep touching, and like sometimes like you just what do I need to do now? Next is like nothing. You need to do nothing. Just don't
Go
touch
read a
it. Like
book.
let alone or start another one.
Yeah, and then come back when it's like this,
Yeah.
you're hard, and you can do whatever you want to it.
Right.
It's just, especially hand building. Like if I have a piece that I want to make, I see the shape in my head. I got a slab roller. I cut out all the pieces. I call it making my own puzzle.
Right.
So I'll cut out all the pieces, and then I have a table. This table is covered with backer board,
Yeah.
which is absorbent.
Yeah.
I'll just lay my slabs out, and then in an hour I go flip them over, and then in about 2 hours they're pretty leather hard, and I could handle them and put them together without them falling down
Right.
and me losing my mind.
I tell you what, that backer board, the Hardy board, that's something that I've switched over our studios at school, the tables, to the Hardy board, and they're fantastic. They're so tough and durable. Whereas like a canvas covered board or table, they get cut and
Yeah, you can just sponge this off. It's
Yep.
absorbent. When I was down there at Aramont, I'm a red clay guy. I actually
Right.
brought my own clay, because this way I knew what was going to happen when I'm
Right.
trying to teach the class, and I don't want to do terracige if I don't know how it's going to come out.
Right.
So all the tables were red, and I said to Sam Chumley, I'm like, "I'm sorry." He's like, "No, dude, it's backer board. It just wipes right off."
Right.
Just and now what I do too is I made my shelves in my dry box out of backer board, and then I'll
that's-
use small pieces like this to hand build on.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah.
It makes plates dry flatter too.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that.
So what else? Let's see.
Yeah.
So oh yeah. So I was talking about I was looking again, geeking out in your feed last night.
Yeah.
You did rhino cuts for some of your
Yeah.
decorations.
That's something that I've been
That's so cool. I
kind
can't.
of playing with. Yeah. And so it's like the easy cut, and there's all kinds of different. I've been playing with different materials. You can get it at like Dick Blick or any of these like, art supplies stores, but the newest thing. So that's been doing like hand cut, like lino cuts. But I just got a CNC router for school.
Oh wow.
And like playing with.
Let
So
the games begin.
Yeah, like making drawings, imagery, and then using the router to basically, they're just like rubber stamps, right? And then applying underglaze on top of those, and then using that to transfer patterns and images. And so thinking about like printmaking, so that's a new avenue that I'm kind of starting to
Yeah, that's very cool. And that's
explore.
that's a rabbit hole.
I know, right? And
But that's so cool. And and I appreciate when people make their own texture,
right,
make their own stamps, I just got about a month ago on Facebook Marketplace, I got a Cricut.
yeah,
And I tried to stay away from it because to me it was there's that art versus craft,
right,
which is whatever, art is art, right? So I was just trying not to use it because if I wanted to make texture, if I wanted to make something, I would make it myself. But it's actually just a look. I see it now as just a tool,
yeah.
and I make these craft foam.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? I used to trace these with a pen and then cut them
Right.
out. I'm like, well, that's just stupid. It's the same thing.
right.
And
You're
then
just
I roll this in the slab, and it's a textured piece. It's so simple.
Yeah, I think it's
It's a tool.
I always think like if there's things you can do that can reduce labor,
Yeah.
that can allow you to spend time on the creative like ideas then
Yeah, that saves me 2 hours.
right.
Yeah.
Right. And then, because then it might allow you to say, okay, what happens if I make like 6 different versions of these, right? Whereas you might only do like that one because all the time, and then like that sense of like opens doors for play and exploration. And I also think like, so as a professor, I have this like, I feel this responsibility to not only in my own work, but open up doors for students to think like how like think beyond my own studio practice, right?
Huh?
And like try to understand like different opportunities and ways of working that might fit what other people's ideas are, and trying to help them develop their ideas. And not having like students leaving my program that are just kind of following the way that
Yeah.
I've developed working, right? And so it kind of challenging myself to think outside of what I do in my work
Or
and not,
guide them to
yes,
easier ways for them to make their own work.
yeah,
And if that's through a Cricut or if that's through whatever, it is what it is.
yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Speaking of like lino cuts, I wrote this down last night at Pentaculum a couple years ago, back to Aramont. I was walking around checking out all the other artists because there's just so many freaking cool artists. It was so funny. I was having lunch with this one kid, and he says, we're sitting there eating lunch, and he goes, "You know what the best part of an invitational is?" I said, "What's that?" He says, "Nobody's a dick."
That's funny.
Funny. I'm walking around through the 2D, the painting, just saying hi to everybody. It's kind of what I do. Hence the podcast.
Right, right.
Just wanted to see their work and introduce myself and say hi. And this one girl, it was so cool. She had a piece of about 2 foot by 2 foot, and it was craft foam. That like purple
Yeah.
or pink foam. Not craft foam. It's like insulation.
Yeah,
You buy at the
foam
hardware
board.
store,
Yeah.
8-foot piece. It's like 2-3 inches thick, right? She had a 2 foot by 2 foot piece of that sitting on the floor. She took a Sharpie marker and she drew, of course, she's an artist. She drew this freaking amazing picture on it. And then she took a wood burning tool and she just traced it. And melted it.
Right.
And then she rolled ink on it, flipped it over, bink, imprint. I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant.
That is amazing.
I knew it would blow your mind. Do you see? Well, boom, rabbit hole.
Oh man.
Sorry. You're going to call me in a month and be like, dude, I hate you. There's foam all over my house.
Oh, that's
It was this amazing printed, painting, and she just melted it off and then just printed it. It was like
that is
back
so
in the day,
cool.
they carved that in wood.
That's I'm gonna that's a perfect thing to do with my students.
Yeah, it's a fun
'Cause
class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a really active art club, and so we're always trying to do basic activities that maybe takes them outside of what they would normally doing like in their work.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You got to send me pictures of it.
Yeah, that sounds great.
It was really cool. Her name, I think, on Instagram was Chocolate Polly Pockets.
Okay, I can remember that.
Chocolate Polly Pockets.
Shout out to Chocolate Polly Pockets.
Chocolate Polly Pockets. And I'll never forget how she did that, because I was watching her do it, and I went, I'm like, that's freaking genius.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love seeing those things.
Yeah, well, I think that's like I was saying before we were starting that that you're so smart doing this podcast, and I think even how you use social media of like expanding your creative community and engaging with people. And I think I've even just like looking at listening to podcasts and looking at some of the first episodes that you've done, but it's like creating an opportunity for you to just connect with other artists. And I think so often we are kind of in our bubble, in our studio, and it's hard to unless you happen to be in a big community, in a big city, or which I know you're in a fairly rural spot, right? But I think it's brilliant to basically build your own virtual community.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And you know what it is? It's a virtual community. I know so many of these people
Yeah.
through social media and through just ceramics, and I was telling one of the guests the other day, the best part is I want to talk to all these people.
Right.
There's a selfish motivation to all this.
Yeah. No. Exactly. I mean, it's great. But it's also like I'm enjoying and will continue to enjoy sort of watching these. So hopefully you continue doing this. It might be hard to do it through your golf season, but
Gosh, I'm starting to come to terms with that now. Am I going to do one a week? I probably will. I think I can do one a week. I can put aside a freaking hour, right?
Right.
But the freaking golf course is so busy. We got named #1 public golf course in Rochester by Golf Magazine 2 years ago.
So that's like now everybody's searching you out, and
Yeah, and the guy that owns the golf course is a buddy of mine, and he's a local dude, and we ski together. And I was with him the other day skiing, and I'm like, "Do you want me to make you $1 million, or do you want me to make you $100,000?"
right.
Because I'm like, dude, we're the best course in 50 miles, and we'll have 230 people on a Saturday. It's too many people.
Right.
We need to raise the price. I was like, if we didn't have the clientele, then raising the price would be shooting yourself in the foot.
Right.
We have the people. I said, you'll make the same amount of money with less people. And then I said, and what happens if all those people still show up? Do you want to make an extra $250,000 next year?
Yeah, that's supply and demand. It's just like making pots, right? Like if you want to really spend more time and energy in your work and make better work, sometimes it takes more energy, but that means you have to like raise the price. But then if people still buy the work, then it allows you to spend more time and more work, and there can be that. There is like that. That's just the reality.
I'm hoping the podcast takes off. I think it'll be fun. I sent a little message to Ben Carter, because he runs the whole thing. I'm like, just throwing this out there, like this is going to be fun if you want to be a part of it. So we'll see.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but that's a great little segue into pricing. That's always fun to talk about, isn't it?
Oh man. Yeah.
I was looking at a certain artist's mugs the other day, and I love this person's work, and it's beautiful. And the mugs were $175.
I think that's great.
Yes, it is. It's wonderful if you can get it.
Yeah, I think that's probably an accurate, value for labor and work. But the reality is, the little bit of business school that I did get and conversations, it's what is that the cost is perceived value. Like what you can charge is perceived value. It is what seems like if you look at something and say, oh, that seems reasonable, that seems right, or even if it's like, oh, that's a little bit dear, but it's worth it to me, then that's what you can get, right? That's just like basic economics. So, part of it can be what you like where you are, right? Like, if you're at a big show or you're in a big economy, a big place where that seems like reasonable, then, but if you're in a more like rural place or a smaller place or,
I get old ladies at the golf course, they find out that I'm a potter and I show them some of my pots and they go, wow, those are beautiful. How much are your mugs? And I say $65 and they go, what? Like,
I don't.
Cheap. Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know. It is fun. Yeah, but then go to the dentist, like, right, or whatever, or we just bought a new car, and it's just like, geez, like everything, or even buying eggs, right? Like it's just right. So I don't know. I think anything is worth what people willing to pay for it.
Well, I think what happens is you start sending stuff to galleries because they do tons of marketing and they do tons of work. You're at Charlie Cummings?
Yeah.
Charlie Cummings does an amazing job. Shout out to Varian at Charlie Cummings. They do such amazing work. Their shipping is beautiful. Their website is beautiful. And then all of them, the Plow Gallery with Mark Earl. Mark and Glenn do amazing work. And Glenn's photographs are beautiful.
Right.
He makes my pots look way better than I think they are, I'm like, tell me how you did that. He said, no. But like, if you send, for instance, this big bowl I made the other day, it's 16 inches. I'd probably sell it for 200, 250. But if I ship that to a gallery, it's going to cost me $50 to ship it.
Right.
You're going to get 125 out of it. I'm going to get $75. So I think what happens is if I want $65 for this mug, I got to charge them 130.
That's what I'm saying. Right.
Right.
So if you say what did you say the call it 179 or whatever?
Yeah.
So
they're getting 90 out of it.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. So, but it's funny though, like a mug, it seems to be as a certain form, there is like maybe a range, because even over 200, I don't know, like maybe there is certain, even for any artist, there's like that threshold. But if you would say, okay, even like a vase that's 250, most people's brains, it's somehow like, oh, I don't know, well, vases are more expensive.
Yeah.
Right. Even though it could be a cylinder without a handle, and actually it might take as much time and energy as a craftsman, to create something. And so that's the thing, is like certain forms can just be.
I was thinking about that the other day. Now that I'm doing all of this, I'm like, oh my God, now I got to charge a lot for that.
Right.
That's a lot of work. And I was sitting there painting on one of them last night, going, "Why am I doing this?"
But I think that's where also online sales and which takes, I think, time to kind of build that up. But I think that has been, because you get 100% of that sale, right? And still potentially like craft shows or in-person sales like that. You have more upfront, but. Like down here, we have the Mint Museum in Charlotte puts on like a really fantastic juried pottery sale, the Potter's Market at the Mint, and it's shows like that they do a fantastic job marketing. They bring in like collectors, and they bring in people who are really looking to collect. Yeah, and you can build sort of following, and it's never guaranteed that you get into that level of show, but.
Yeah, and then you get like collectors. Like, I don't know if you saw my shelf, my mug shelf.
Yes.
That I build. There's mugs on there that I love, and I'll probably never use, but I bought them because I want a piece from that person.
Right.
So whatever it cost didn't matter to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think that's where.
But I'll spend $500 on a putter.
Well, I mean. Exactly, right? Or how about skis? I'm a big skier as well. Actually, we're going to Colorado next Wednesday.
Dude, I got Stokely's 2 years ago. The Stokely skis.
Yeah.
My buddies, he says, are they worth what you paid for them? And we have the same size boot.
Right. So
And we got to the bottom. He goes, "Holy shit!" Like,
yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? So. I mean, I think art can be the same thing, where you can surround yourself with these objects. Either they're, functional things can heighten daily use, and but
sure,
I think it's like if you get that value out from your life, and you think about like what is money, right? There's like work credits that we put in, labor, time, and we get these sort of credits back, and so we can spend those on whatever we want, right?
Have you watched Severance?
No.
We just started watching that, and they get these tokens.
Okay.
It's odd, but it's good. Yeah, I agree with that. You get these tokens. What is it?
Yeah, right. And so we can, that's it. We can choose to spend them on what they are, and I've got pots and objects that I've, especially when I didn't have as much money, and I felt like, man, I really sacrificed to put those in my collections. But have I gained more than like $100 or $200 of like joy and value in my life? Like, absolutely.
Where in Colorado are you going?
We're gonna be staying in Dillon, and then we haven't really quite decided. We got an Epic and an Icon pass, so we're gonna go back for spring break for a week. So we have like 10 days that we can kind of pick. So probably, Vail, Breckenridge, A-Basin. Yeah.
Winter Park. I love Winter Park. Well,
I've not been to Winter Park yet.
Yeah. The backside of Copper is a blast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it out there. The first time I only went once, and I'm like, my friends were all going all the time, and I said, "Well, what can you tell me about Colorado skiing?" And they said it'll ruin the East Coast for you.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I mean, I grew up going to Killington so that's a big mountain, and in the '90s we were getting regular snow every year, so like the quality was like pretty good at least. But yeah, now living in the South, we do have some mountains. Shout out to Beach Mountain and Sugar, it's not the
I
same.
have two mountains within 10 minutes of my house. I teach. I used to run the ski school at this one. It's a
Okay.
private club,
Uh huh.
which is really nice. It's only open Wednesday through Sunday, and on the weekend it's members only. And it's a tiny little mountain. But I had a lady asking me one time. She says, "Why is it so expensive to be a member here?" And I said, "Well, for instance, my daughter's out skiing right now, and I have no idea where she is, and I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
Like, if we were over at the 10 minutes at the other mountain, I'd say stop the lifts and call the state police.
Right.
Where's my kid? You know,
Right.
there's you all come back right here. That's it. You
Right.
Can't get lost. So, and there's so many members that are like keeping an eye on each other's kids, and yeah, I love skiing. I stopped teaching at this year. My next door neighbor is the manager of the mountain. He says, "Can you please just teach one day a week?" And I'm like, "I don't want to." Last year, I had to pick a little girl up like this and ski down the hill with her because she was crying.
Yeah.
But my spine is doing this, and I'm holding 80 pounds, and
Right.
I'm 54. I have,
Yeah. More studio time.
yes, it's studio time.
You can ski and yeah, but
So I buy a weekday pass over here to this private club because Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, nobody's there. Me and my buddy were there the other day. There was about 8 people on the whole mountain.
that's awesome.
Yeah, we were done by 11:30.
Yeah.
You
That's fantastic.
sit right onto the lift, like you don't even
Right.
sit right onto the chair. All right. Well, we're a little over an hour.
Yeah.
I know you got to get to work.
Yeah.
There's so much more I want to chat with you about.
Yeah.
Forever, dude. This is a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
this was great, man. Yeah.
Too, I'm going to circle back around to people.
Okay.
So you don't have to only be on the show once. Like
Okay.
we can do the show again. We can come back as work changes and as work
Yeah.
doesn't change. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
But I
Well,
always ask people to leave us with one really good tip.
Yeah.
You've been involved in ceramics for 30 years. What's a great tip that either you learned along the way or a teacher gave you, whether it's how to make a piece, whatever it is. Yeah.
Well, I think so. Do you know Nick Jorling in Western North Carolina? And I don't really know him, but stopped in like a studio visit years ago, like when I was first sort of starting, and sometimes little bits of advice kind of stick with you, and it is like pretty straightforward and one of those things that you kind of is a no brainer. But I remember he said that you only have 100% of your time. And often people try to fit in another thing. Like they try to like do, give it 110%. And the reality is you will lose that time somewhere else. So whether, this thing, especially as a potter, and if you've got other things going on, you're like, I'm trying to get in the studio. And so it can be your sleep, your health, relationships, or it could be your work. And so taking like opportunities or other like side gigs or taking on even a different body of work, right? You can't just add things on. And I think that is a hard lesson to learn, but trying to keep that in always in the front of my mind that you can only have 100% of your time. You only have 100% of effort.
That's a great one. That's kind of like what Sam Chumley said at the end of the day. He said, make sure the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah. Yes. Because, right.
Make sure you're going to enjoy what you get out of how much you're putting into it.
Yeah.
And I always tell people what I've realized. I always thought it was just as I get older, anything new that I want to do requires me quitting something else.
Right. Yes.
Because I don't have the time.
Right. And because even if you can literally fit the time, you're not going to be able to give 100% of your like mental capacity and focus. Right.
Yeah.
So
kind of like when I'm putting, I'm thinking about how hungry I am.
Yeah.
It's just, how did that not go in?
Yeah.
You're not fully there. It's funny. I
So,
tell kids that all the time. When I teach kids, they're young and they hit a bad shot and they're like, oh, and then they drag their club up to the next shot. And I remember teaching this one kid. And I said, hey, hold on a second. I said, let me tell you a little tip. I said, if you're still mad about that shot, this one's going to suck too.
right. You gotta have the goldfish brain. You have to get. You have to.
Yeah.
So I mean, I told you I played soccer in college, and same thing. If you're shooting or but the same thing. If you have something goes wrong, you have to kind of forget it and get back in the studio. Get back on the pitch. But same thing in the studio. Like if something disaster happens and you push your work beyond like what it can do, and sometimes you're just like, yeah, like, all right, got to get back into it, right?
Soccer. I've been geeking out to the Premier League.
Yes.
Oh, I love watching that. It's so good.
I'm a junkie.
I still can't see offsides yet, though. All my kids play soccer. The town I grew up in, Naples here, it's huge. Soccer's from little kids that they went to the States last year and almost got to the States. But people offsides. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I don't see it. But anyway, I'll let you get to work, sir. I'm going to go turn my kiln off, I think.
All right.
This has been awesome.
Yeah, fantastic. Yep.
Very cool. So I'll hit stop here, and then you just hang out and until it's here. So bye, Phil. Good. Bye, Phil. Right. See ya, and Ron Phil back tomorrow morning. It's gonna
fantastic.
Be
all right.
Right.
I'll be watching.
He seems like the nicest dude. I'm excited.
He's awesome. Ron is fantastic. Yep.
Very cool. All right, buddy. Thank
Cheers.
you.
Yep.